Stop questioning the spirit and the message and go for it. I think like even my move to Atlanta almost 30 years ago was about what would happen if I didn't do it. And I'm sitting on my porch one day wondering what would have happened had I done it. And I would never know, but to know and even not be successful in the way I imagined would have been better than to question what would have. And so that was my first move. When I left Milwaukee, it was like, this whole world. I think that there was an artist who's been a mentor of mine forever in Milwaukee, Evelyn Terry. And Evelyn kind of said to me many years ago, and I was 16 years old at the time, she said, you can be a big fish in a small pond, or you can take on the ocean. And it was like, you can get ate up in the ocean, because you have predators, you have all those, but it's like if you navigate and you listen to the spirit, you'll always be fine. I look at it now and thinking almost 30 years of being here in Atlanta, all the things that I've gone through and the many different lives I've lived. And my last journey is really about, I want to buy my freedom. And so there are situations and opportunities that are presenting themselves that when I'm done with them, I can do whatever I want to do. That doesn't mean I stop painting, because painting is who I am. But some of the things I want to paint will be different. And I can stop a grind that I've been on for all these years, where every day I'm working, every day I got a deadline, every day I get calls and I get all these things, and it's this constant pressure. I want to relax and I want to just create what I want to create. And that's where I'm at now. I'm almost there.
And what does Charly Palmer want to create right now?
What I'm doing. I have a very controversial piece. It's going to be a very large piece that is actually inspired by Picasso's Guernica. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is a very disturbing image. And the only person I can imagine creating this for is myself, because it's not a feel-good piece, but it's a real piece. And it's dealing with like racism and hitting it right in the face, because that's the one thing that I'm definitely not trying to avoid in this part of my life. It's very clear that my position is Black. My position is about Blackness. It's about furthering us. It's about inspiring young Black people. That's what my mission is. It's not about, because I'm not going to spend energy on hating and thinking negatively about white people. I just won't allow them my energy anymore on any kind of level. They don't get my time and energy anymore, because my energy will be spent on getting art done and helping Black folk.
I was talking to someone about you, and they said the core for you is spirituality. Mm-hmm. How do you define that?
It's recognizing, my wife and I, we've done a couple of seminars where we talked about it. It's this idea that you have to recognize that you've been created for something bigger than you. And so we're always motivated by what's in it for me. How can I benefit from this situation? I have begun to really realize that, and giving and passing it forward is part of the gift. So, the expression that too much is given, much is expected, I feel an obligation and responsibility to give back. And so, because the Spirit is telling me all the time, if I was to tell people, because people are wondering, what is it that you're doing that brings these people to you? I said, I listen to the Spirit. And the Spirit has been working as my agent to bring opportunities my way. That's the only thing I can think of. Because I cannot, how does John Legend find me? How does Time Magazine find me? How does some of the things that I can't even announce find me? And it is that they're working for me. But I also have a responsibility to do and give back.
And how do you give back? What are you doing? What are you putting out?
I personally mentor a lot. I mentor a lot. I'm actually going to be doing something on Monday where I'm just saying, like, I reached out to a friend of mine who has an artist space. And I need somewhere that I can sit down and talk to young people. Young people meaning, what is it? It might be a bar. So it's probably 21 to 75. And it's about what I know. And I can tell them what I know. There is no blueprint to this journey, but I know certain things. And part of it is if you hoard it, if you hide it, if you operate in jealousy, you're never going to get anywhere. I told some young men the other day, I said, your only competition is yourself. And when you realize that, then you will stop competing against other people. You will celebrate, like I mentioned, going to Jamal's show, you'll celebrate the success of other artists.
I notice you talk a lot about other artists and you're talking them up and you're sending people out to visit them. That's important to you.
I am in awe of them. I am inspired by them. And there's no reason for me to try to hide them. It makes no sense to me. I get it, but you're operating from a fear base when you're afraid even where the next dollar is coming from. I've always said this, like my God has a sense of humor because at no point in my life have I ever been broke. But other than here, and every time I've panicked because, the money's getting tight, something amazing happens. And it's always been that way, But still, I'm not saying there are not times I don't panic because it's in me to panic to a certain degree. But it's like, wait a minute, but it always works out. So what's the problem? And so it's like, I wish I could get other people.
Lean into the abundance.
Lean into it and trust it. It's like, I loved, and I'm not really a person that's going to quote Steve Harvey, but Steve Harvey had talked about that when he talked about the parachute, and you jump off the cliff and you trust that parachute's going to open. And you know what? The parachute has always opened, and so you have to, like 60 years on this earth, it's like after a while you realize it always opens.
So why not believe it?
Why not just believe it?
Absolutely. One thing as your style, tell me a little bit about the flowers. I think we talked about that before. It might have something to do with your mom.
Right. My mother passed away shortly after Obama was elected. So she never
She never
made it to the inauguration. Okay. She passed before that happened. But that was my shero. That was like, she loved us all. There's 6 of us. And my family will say that I was her favorite. And I had to embrace that, but I know the reason I was her favorite. And the reason I was her favorite was I was always the protector. I had one older brother and everybody else was younger, and I was always the big brother trying to help and also saying, Mom, what can I do for you? And so everybody else was give me. I was like, no, I want to help. I want to be a service to you. You mean everything to me. And I always used to quote, Abraham Lincoln said, all that I am and ever will be, I owe to my mother. And that's so true because she made it happen. So when she passed away, I went through a period of over a year where I attempted to paint because it's routine to a certain degree. It's automatic to a certain degree, but it lacked truth. It lacked emotion. It lacked energy. Art is energy. And so every time I created it, the energy part was missing. And so it was over a year of mourning her. And then I painted a picture, a painting of a little boy holding a huge bouquet of flowers. And the name of the piece was Not Enough Flowers. And what it was saying like, I could, give you flowers for the rest of my life. It would never be enough to acknowledge how much I miss you, how much I honor you, respect you, how much you've done for me. And so then flowers became an ongoing part of a lot of the work I do. The flowers pop up in the oddest places. And the reason for that, and I explained to it, because flowers are about celebration. Flowers are about mourning. Flowers are about love. But sometimes flowers are used as a tool for distraction. And so I talked about that when it comes to like the whole Donald Trump administration and the idea that there were a lot of things going on in our country, and Donald Trump was a distraction. And so while we focused our energy on his behavior, laws and bills are being passed over here when we should have been paying attention to this kind of thing. So when you see a negative image and you see a flower in it, it is my attempt to say, okay, disregard the man hanging from the tree. Look at the pretty flowers.
Absolutely.
It's like you'll see tucked away over there. There's a lawn jockey, and I painted him solid gold. And I'm going to use profanity, so forgive me, but it's like you can cover shit with gold. It's still shit. Yeah. And so it's like you can cover and make this jockey, but what I knew about the jockey was a negative image, and it always will be for me. And that's the whole thing. It's like my eyes are wide open, and like James Baldwin. So why James Baldwin? I love his voice. I love his fearlessness. I loved his insight and his awareness. If you've never seen I Am Not Your Negro, it will break your heart because 30 years later, it sounds like he's talking about today. And so you realize nothing has changed. And so that was the moment for me when I saw the movie where it broke my heart and I realized nothing has really changed. Or if you look at my Time magazine cover and you have this beautiful little girl and you see in her hair there's a riot going on. It's like, why are my grandkids still afraid? I lived through the 60s, so it's like, it was a shifting of the civil rights movement, but the civil rights movement is as strong today as ever before. And the one thing I can say that I'm proud of is young people. Young people have come out in strength to fight the system because I think the pandemic was where they started to realize and start opening their eyes and seeing what was really kind of going on because they've been too busy living their lives to realize, no, racism has always been there and may always be there. And that's why I will shift my energy into not trying to convince them we're okay, that we're harmless, because we're not harmless. We're powerful, we're beautiful, we're intelligent, we're amazing. Yeah, you should fear us, but we're not here to harm you. We're just here to live our lives and do what's best for our families.
Love it. I talk in the magazine about that arts movement and the movement for racial justice work hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So what have you looked at as your obviously the Time magazine cover, but what are you telling people about this time as well?
See, what's interesting about my shift is, like, for years I painted Black history. I painted our struggles from Africa through the Middle Passage and Reconstruction and Civil Rights Movement, all that. And then one day I'm like, I'm preaching to the choir. Most of us have lived this, most of us know this. What else can I say? And it was like, well, you know what? I want to say, love yourself and love your people and celebrate you and stop looking for approval. Stop looking to be accepted and understood and just be you and protect your own. And I mean own, I mean Black community. I'm not talking about your immediate family, because for me, they're all part of us. And so my commitment is all of us,
The space we're in today is a community of Black artists. Tell me a little bit about the space where we are and the other people here with you.
Okay, and so we have, we've had some great artists come through. One of my biggest inspirations left probably 2 years ago. His name is Cosmo White. Cosmo was doing some fantastic work. I think he's in California now. We have Unique Norman. We have Tracy Morrell down the street. We have Jamel Wright upstairs. We have a lot of pretty amazing people here, and we're very much about a community of sharing. But that's the one thing about Atlanta. Atlanta may not be the best market because some of the artists that are doing really well aren't doing it necessarily in Atlanta. But Atlanta is a nice hub as far as the airport to get anywhere in the country. Mm-hmm. And so I've found that being around these creative people just in Atlanta itself has been very inspirational. I would say that maybe 10% of my market is here, but that's okay because it works because I'm working around the world right now.
Okay. Spend any time in Chicago?
Not in a long time. My little brother's there. Okay. My little brother and my second youngest son. My second youngest son's been there 2 years now. And then my youngest brother has been in Chicago for now about 10 years. Okay. So I do get back, and I have been there a couple of times, but I have not been on a flight since COVID. And I'm not up to making that flight. I mean, that drive.
Okay.
I made some short drives like in the last year or so, but I have not got on a plane.
Understood. Anything else you want to share with the audience? And think about what you're working on now or coming up or where you'll be? Yeah,
so coming up, opening on the 30th is at the Hammond's House here, which is a small African-American art museum here in Atlanta, Georgia, is the retrospective show. The name of the show is Departure, and Departure covers 30 years of my work. And so there's a piece that was done in 1981, and there's a couple of pieces that literally I finished yesterday or the day before yesterday. And so it's showing a broad range, and it shows, because I've always worked in series, and so you'll see how it transitioned each time into the next series. So it wasn't an abrupt boom change. it was like this slow transition into the next. Even when it came to, I did a series called the Silent Series, which dealt with the American flag. And when the reporter said about LeBron James, shut up and dribble, and like, you know what, when Kaepernick took a knee, it's like they started treating us as if we're visitors in our own country. And they don't acknowledge the fact that we more than likely been here longer than they have been in many cases. And it's like, so if you don't like it, go home. We are home. And so it's like the Silent Series dealt with the ideas. It's like, and I, in particular to young children, it's like, listen, it's your right as an American to speak out against anything that you don't agree with. That's a freedom of speech. So don't let them intimidate you, and you don't need to shut up. And so that's like, you'll see in that Silent Series that the flag goes across the mouth, or the stripes will go across the mouth, and it's like an attempt to silence us. And like, don't be quiet. Speak your piece, speak your word. So that transition, I started with Silent Series, and then that's when I started to go towards the flower series. And so like one of the last pieces was the flag and the flowers. And then I'm like, okay, I need to visit the flower thing again. And so I started to explore the flowers, and I've been in that flower period now for almost 2 years. Trying to get out of it, but it still kind of keeps coming up.
The piece that was selected for Time, did you show them a series of things and they say, oh, we love this one? Or did you say, this is the one? How did that happen?
The universe. The ancestors really, because what happened was D.L. Pine is the art director for Time magazine. He used to work for the AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution here, and he saw my Silent Series. I had a show 3 years ago or something like that, and he kept it in his head. And so when the Time featured article about America Must Change came up, he literally showed me a layout where he had went online, found one of my images, and put Time magazine on and said, this is kind of what I envisioned. And so I submitted about 5 or 6 ideas. And what was fascinating about that is he was explaining to me the news cycle. And at the time, Donald Trump was doing something major in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. They were expecting riots and all kinds of stuff. The young people brilliantly, they overbooked tickets, bought tickets, and didn't show up. But he said there's a lot of things going on, so it's very possible that we won't be using your piece of artwork for the cover. And so I didn't even start the painting. It was due, I think, on Wednesday. I didn't start the painting until Monday because I knew what was going on the weekend. I'm like, what's the point? I know something crazy is going to happen. And so when that didn't happen, then I jumped on it right away. And the next day, Tuesday, I submitted it, and he says, yes, we're going to go with it. And it was official.
You paint fast.
Wow.
I paint. You know what? It's funny. I say a couple of things, and I always say this about my work. I don't waste a stroke. I've been doing this for a long time, and so when I'm doing something, I know exactly what I'm doing, and so I knock out stuff really quickly because I see it already. And once I see it, I don't overwork it. I watch young people who aren't certain and overpaint, and like I don't need to do that. You know, and I'm that guy, that artist that I can't wait to see it done. And also, it's one of those things that I'm impatient. And so at any given time, if I'm working on a show, and I have 2 shows, one in Milwaukee that's going to be happening in July, and I have one in Martha Vineyard that's happening in August. Most of the work for those shows have not been done yet. Because I'm wrapping up, that stack you see right here is a stack of children. I'm doing a children's book. And I'm trying to finish that all up that I have to submit by Friday. And that shows on Friday. And then I have 2 more children's books. So I have to work fairly quickly.